wherever you are, and thank you for joining this town hall. I'm Laurie Friedman, the Director of Office of International Students and Scholars. We have several other administrators here in this call who are here to answer your questions. We have representatives from Student Affairs, including Center for Wellbeing, Residence Life. We have academic advisors, both at the graduate and undergraduate level, academic affairs, and auxiliary services as well, and several other people who are here to answer your questions. We received many questions ahead of time, especially last night, so thank you for sending those to us. And we also have some questions from other town halls. We know some of you may not have been able to attend those, and so we are bringing those over into this town hall as well. So I first just want to start out, when we planned this town hall, we planned it probably 3-4 weeks ago on our calendar and didn't know the timing would be so crucial with the news that has come out yesterday with regards to international students. And we are very thankful that we have the opportunity to talk with you today about this and that this was scheduled for today. And so I'm sure all of you have seen in the news the recent temporary final rule from the Department of Homeland Security that puts even more strict regulations on online course of study for international students. And so it's been less than 24 hours since we've received notice of this rule, so not everything is detailed, not everything is figured out yet. We are still waiting for frequently asked questions that usually come from Department of Homeland Security to work out the finer details. But I will share a little bit about what the government is now saying and how it relates to St. Thomas and what we're planning here. So the new rule is stating that for those who are in the US, they need to engage in a school that is offering hybrid learning. So that's a combination of in-person and online instruction, or in-person classes. They are saying that international students cannot stay in the US if they are participating in an online school. St. Thomas has plans right now to offer hybrid options. And we are working with deans, and we are working with administrators, and we are working with departments to ensure that our international students can take and participate in hybrid options at both the undergraduate and the graduate level. And we have received word from deans who also want to do whatever possible to support our international students in this time. We know that our international students are being put in a very difficult situation with this, and so within our control, we want to do whatever we can possible. With that said, it does have a note in there that if St. Thomas or universities were to move entirely online in the middle of a semester due to coronavirus, that those students would need to leave the country or transfer to another school. I don't know what's going to happen, and we hope that that doesn't happen, but just know that our administrators, including our president and provost and deans, are aware of this, and will certainly keep our international students in mind when making these types of decisions, because we know how this will affect international students in the US that are here at that time if that happens. We know that countries have borders that are closed around the world, and we are very conscious of that, and that flights are not easy to obtain. And so please know that we are definitely keeping international students in mind in making these decisions. I will mention a few things for those currently out of the US that may not be able to make it back to the US this fall, maybe due to travel bans or lack of visas. So current students, it does say, the new rule says that you're unable to keep your status active and enroll online from home. So there are some options. We can work with you where maybe you can enroll online, but the status is maybe taken a break or something. Again, we're still working out the final details of all of this, but we will work with you individually, one-on-one, to see, and as we learn more, we'll work with you as well. As for new students, this also says that if you are enrolling, so basically if you're a new student and you're still thinking of coming for the fall, still possible. If you are thinking of deferring maybe till spring when it's possible if we're in person fully, that's an option. Or if you'd like to start your program online from home, we would defer your I-20 to the spring or a later date, and that would be possible as well to start your program online from home. Again, we will work with each of you individually. That is why we are St. Thomas, to set up a plan that is for you. And again, we're going to do everything we can to support international students. I will also say that we have until early August to issue new immigration documents, new I-20s to every single one of our international students here, with remarks stating if they will be engaged in a hybrid program. And so we are already working on that, and we will be in contact with you in order to get that mailed, whether you're here in the US or home. Don't worry about that right now. We will make sure that happens. And so we will be in contact with you, and please keep checking your St. Thomas email, because that will be our first point of contact. And we will make sure to mail these or FedEx these in a safe way so that you receive these. So that is the current update. Again, as we learn more, we'll be able to share that. And I plan to send an email out to all international students as well this week with more details and including this recording. So this town hall is being recorded right now. And so we will share that with those who couldn't be here today. I know with the time difference, it's hard for everybody to join in. And I'll do my best to monitor the chat as well and see if there's any other questions. But right now with the online piece right now, as long as we are a hybrid option school, we just need to make sure, and you as the student needs to make sure that your courses are not entirely online. And we're still working out the different definition of what online means, and we hope more guidance will come. But you'll need to make sure that you at least have some in-person class. And that's where we're working with deans, departments, and academic advisors to ensure that. And we have our OISS team here who will help monitor the chat in case, while I'm speaking, in case there's any questions about this that you'd like answered now. And we can certainly, any individual question that you have as a student, please email us directly or send a private message through the chat to one of our team. Amanda is monitoring the chat, so you can do that. And we'll be sure to follow up with you after this. We will, we know each case can be slightly different, and so we want to make sure you have the right advice to move forward. We're still working out the number of online classes, but at the graduate level, we believe it might be at least one class that should be in person. And at the undergraduate level, it looks like at least one class also that should be in person. With dissertation credits, we want to work with your department and ensure that there is some in-person component to that. And so we want to make sure with dissertations, practicums, anything that's slightly unique to your program, we're going to work with your program and your advisors to see if we can ensure what piece can be considered in person for the hybrid portion. Are there other questions, Amanda, that they'd like answered right now?
There are questions about specifically if students don't want to transfer out, like worst case scenario, St. Thomas has to go entirely online due to COVID-19 mid-semester. If a student did not want to transfer, then their only option, to clarify, is that they would have to go home and take a break or enroll online as not in status, correct?
That's what we believe right now. We hope it doesn't come to that.
There's another question about if this will have any impact on CPT specific to graduate students, but that also applies to undergraduate students.
Right now, we're not sure. We're wondering and hoping for more guidance on if CPT, which is internships, can be considered an in-person component, or if additional courses also need to be considered in person. And so we're waiting for further guidance on that. Okay. I'm sure there will be more questions throughout, and we can be sure to answer those as they come in. We also want to address fall planning, which is what the town hall is originally scheduled for. And so I'm going to start with some of those questions. And we have some administrators on here who can help answering some of these, but let's start with some of the classes and enrollment questions, because that's quite a bit of what we're talking about. And I'm wondering, with regards to undergraduate classes, if Kathy or Stephanie could answer, how are the classes taught in the fall, and when will the students know if their classes are in person or online?
To offer classes in 4 different modes. Departments are currently working out the teaching mode for each of their classes, and we hope that this is going to be done in mid-July. Classes will be either taught in person while maintaining social distance guidelines. They may be hybrid, which will be a balance of instruction in person and online. They may be online synchronous, which is designating, or with designated, where you're meeting in a Zoom situation like this at the same time each week. Or they may be asynchronous, which would be a completely online course, completing the work on your own schedule. So we will be finalizing that information and those decisions by department in mid-July. And then you will be receiving an email from my colleague and myself that will invite you to schedule, providing a link to schedule an in-person appointment with us. And then we're going to go through your schedule, answer any questions. If needed, we can make adjustments at that time too.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Who should international students contact with their preferences for online classes versus in-person classes? Kathy, you want to take that for undergrad?
Yes, for undergrad, it's either going to be myself, Kathy Hawks, or my colleague, Stephanie Fernando, who's going to wave for those of you who are on this page. So there are 2 of us academic counselors in the academic counseling office that specialize in international students, and we are able to make those, help you with those questions and provide that information.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we have a couple grad departments on here, engineering, software, or business. Do you want to answer any of these related to the courses and preferences?
So I can speak for OCB that we've been in the process for the last couple of weeks of talking to every single faculty and deciding which format would be best. So we're in that mode right now, and with this news, we will clearly be revisiting this to talk through it. So we are going to do our best to make this work for our students as best as possible. For any graduate OCB students that do want to talk about formats and which course they need, and if we need to be doing some switching up, maybe we want to wait a little bit until we have some more solid news and we have our formats laid out, but they can contact their advisors, so either me or Tanisha Andrews, who is also on this as well. And we will be sending out communications as soon as we know to everyone, to all of our students, class by class, so that they know the details and know what to expect going forward.
Thank you. A couple other questions with classes, and then we can get back to some of the other questions if there's more about the immigration piece. And Tim, I'm wondering if you could answer this. Will students need to go home at Thanksgiving? Will the university go online, or will students need to go home at Thanksgiving and finish the semester online? Is there talk about that at St. Thomas?
So I actually want to make one quick comment about OCB. I just came from a meeting with the Dean of the College of Business, and with this new information, the Dean is going to go back and work closely with the faculty for some additional, to look at ways to move some of the all online experiences to have some options available. I want people to understand that the president, the provost, all of the deans are very concerned about this. All of us want to find a St. Thomas kind of person-oriented solution that helps you meet the requirements of this new regulation. There is no current talk about closing down at Thanksgiving and going online. The current plan, and it seems very solid at this, as solid as anything is at this point, is that the St. Thomas experience we offer, which involves people face-to-face as much as possible, will continue throughout the entire school year, not with a gap after Thanksgiving. That and with this current, with this new regulation, that would be even more of a disincentive for us to ever bring up that kind of conversation. So it is not currently a plan.
Thank you. A question that might be for Tim or Karen or Madonna as well, who's here from the Center for Wellbeing. But if there is a dramatic resurgence in cases, or what is the threshold of St. Thomas's decision to decide to go online in the semester should that happen? And how will a decision be made?
Well, as with in the past spring, it seems so long ago now, it was a joint decision with the administration at the University of St. Thomas and many other people. So we'll look carefully at what's going on not only in the St. Thomas community, but the community around us, the state of Minnesota, and nationally. But really, it has to do with outstripping the resources. So if the demands for care, the demands for keeping folks safe and healthy outstrips our resources, and we will use a lot of resources to make sure that we can support students as best we can, and even looking outside of the university. But if it gets to the point where we're not able to do that safely, then we would be looking at resorting back to a online modality. But hopefully we spent the whole summer and we're still working on getting a lot of really great workflow systems in place so that we can support students and not get to that tipping point. Thanks.
Thank you. I know there's just some other questions about travel and immigration, and I know that some international students are concerned if they're unable to obtain international flights, if they, as far as coming here and as well as the current travel bans, or if the university were to move online and international students would need to leave and there's no available flights or their country's borders are closed. If we needed to move online and couldn't make any accommodations to keep a hybrid or in-person component for international students or others, we don't have guidance yet on what that means for international students if their countries are closed, unfortunately. Right now, so far, there hasn't been any extension of grace periods or anything since the coronavirus has started in March, and they've had flexibility with online courses in the past and are moving more strict this fall. And I don't see any lenience or flexibility with allowing students to stay just because of the flight piece. For those wanting to come here that are currently overseas and are bound by the travel bans, you're welcome to work with us directly and see if we can look through what country you're from and see if there's a way for you to go through a different country or whatever it might be. We're not sure if that's going to work or not. Again, a lot of this is still new and unknown, but the bans really don't want those traveling from, for example, Europe, China, Iran, and Brazil, if they've been in those countries in the last 14 days. And so that's something that we still need to determine if there's a midpoint, a different country in the middle. If that's an option or something you're thinking about, we can see if that would work. But again, we don't know. We don't have direct information yet on that. So I want to move now into arrival and talking about 14 days and quarantine. And would like to talk, I know we have some new students on here as well. And so if we want to talk first of all with residence life and with moving on campus for those new students first, Brian or Aaron, if you could answer, what is the arrival for those students currently in the U.S., international students, and what is the arrival date for those coming outside the U.S.? And I can help as well.
All right, thank you, Laurie. Sorry about that. So for those of you who are currently in the United States, we will be prepared for you to start moving items onto campus the 29th of August. And what we're going to ask you to do at this point is to email Residence Life, and we're going to set you up in our early arrival queue to arrive over that time period, starting the 29th, so between the 29th of August and September 8th, which is the day before classes begin, and we will get you set up for your arrival on those days. If you are coming from outside of the United States, and I know that there was a question that came through the chat on this as well, you will coordinate with the Center for Wellbeing and our office for potential quarantine housing. If you're arriving into the United States and have a place to be for 14 days as a part of that quarantine, that is an option, obviously, before moving on to campus. Otherwise, we will have quarantine housing available for those of you who have on-campus housing in the fall. And we will work with you, the Center for Wellbeing and our office will work with you on what that looks like. I know, Laurie, that we talked about that arrival date could probably be earlier than what was initially published. So I would say continue to work with OISS to be able to share that dates as you get things finalized with visas and when you'll be arriving. And then they will then initiate that contact with our offices to help with quarantine housing.
Thank you. And I'll clarify, we'll talk a little bit about quarantine. So the current CDC guidelines state that those traveling from outside the US will need to quarantine for 14 days upon arrival into the US. We don't know if that guidance will change, but right now that is what we are going on. And St. Thomas and Minnesota Department of Health all abide by these regulations as well. And so, as Brian mentioned, we do, for those that need to come directly to on-campus housing and do not have any family or anywhere to stay first, for those new students, we will have housing available on campus if you are planning to live on campus for 14 days. And you could do that 14 days before the semester starts. And so we will be available to have that happen in mid-August. For those who are not living on campus, you will need to monitor and quarantine for 14 days before returning to school or coming to St. Thomas. And for those current students who are currently overseas and returning, you will also need to quarantine for 14 days upon arrival. And so that is the current CDC guidelines. And of course, if anything changes, we will be sure to let you know, but that is what we are following right now. And so Brian mentioned they do have housing available set aside for those who are living on campus to quarantine. And we are working on all of the arrangements for that. We are also working on providing airport pickup service to those students who are arriving to arrange that in a contactless way and safe way for everybody. So we are working on that, but do not have the details as of yet. But we will sure to include that in our pre-arrival communication. Madonna, a question for you. How do off-campus students quarantine, and maybe for on-campus students as well? What is the definition of quarantine?
That's a good question. The definition is that, you know, since you haven't had a known exposure, what we consider as an unknown exposure, just by being in an airport, traveling long distance on an airplane, that you could have come in contact with somebody with COVID-19. So quarantine, 14 days, really staying in your apartment or your house as much as possible. You can go out to get you know, medical support, things that you need for your day-to-day life. What we're looking at here on campus is whether or not you could go and pick up food or whether that would need to be delivered. So we're still working out some of those details. But what we're trying to do is really minimize your exposure to anyone else if you do go out of your room, that you wear a mask, that you do all of the hygiene, which would be, you know, covering your cough, washing your hands for at least 20 seconds, cleaning off high-touch areas. If you're in a shared space like a bathroom or a kitchen, that all gets cleaned. But it's really minimal exposure to anybody else for 14 days.
Thank you. And Mitch, do you have any information on meals, and as far as if international students, if they arrive early, would they need to pay for those meals?
So if they are living in residence life, meal plans turn on Saturday, September 5th for the evening at 4:30. So if you are buying a meal plan, your meal plan will start on that Saturday the 5th. If you are on campus before that point, we have separate meal plans for early arrivals. You can buy them in blocks of 10 meals, so you can purchase those however you wish for however long that you need those. And you can eat here on campus. Dining services will be open when you get here. It'll open sometime between the 5th and the 15th of August. We're still working on exactly which day that's going to happen based on a number of factors on campus, but it will be open and ready to go. If you are in quarantine, you will be able to use an early arrival meal plan. Like Madonna said, we're working on exactly where that's going to be and how that's going to be, but a meal plan will be able to be utilized through the university if you are here early. So.
Thank you. And so in general, with a 14-day quarantine, we really encourage anybody to arrive early and include those 14 days before classes begin to fully participate in class starting on September, the first full week of September 9th. So please do plan accordingly so that you're here 14 days beforehand. And we will be planning orientation activities as well in some sort of safe format, whether you're quarantined or not, to be able to participate and engage and connect with others the week before classes begin.
Lori, there's a question and follow-up about quarantine specifically for either new or returning students from abroad that will be living on campus. If they cannot come early, either because they do not have their visa in time or for other reasons, how would the quarantine affect their ability to take courses if it does impact the time schedule of when classes start, given the new statement from yesterday?
So we will work with international students, especially because of visa and arrival dates. We know that flights and visa appointments are hard to come by. And so we will work with those students, and I'm sure we could work with academic departments and advisors to communicate with those professors. The courses themselves are what's important to be able to be enrolling in a hybrid format, a mixture of online and in-person. So those enrollments need to occur. If the first week is virtual in some way because of arrival delays, I don't think that will have an impact on the rest of the semester in the way that students are enrolling. So we will work with individual professors on that. Thank you.
Wonderful. And then a follow-up question still a little bit more about if students do have to take online classes while they're at home, if they're a current student, is that okay? Are they maintaining their status as a St. Thomas student even if they are not an F1 student?
Yes, so what we believe right now is that if students are unable to come to the US and still want to enroll online, that they would be still St. Thomas students and enrolling as a St. Thomas student and can be full-time. It's just the immigration status piece that would not remain active. Great, and Brian, a question from a new student. How and when will freshmen get to choose how they want to stay in their residences, like in terms of singles, doubles? When will housing assignments go out?
Yeah, so hopefully you have already submitted your housing preference form in the link that Amanda and Ethan have sent out to you. If you have not done that, please get that in as soon as possible so we can assign you. It does ask all the questions regarding our different hall choices, if you're interested in a single room and all of that. All housing assignments will be out the week of July 27th. We're really aiming to have them out actually on the 27th this year for people. It will be sent to your St. Thomas email address. I will then generally try to get that same information forwarded to your personal email addresses that you might have. It does require a login to our system. So if you're unable to access our systems from wherever you may be at any given time, if you just let us know through our Residence Life email, we can send you direct information, including who your roommates are, where you're placed. But a generic email that goes out will advise you to get into our housing system to do that. So be watching for that email the last week of July.
I got some more questions for you, Brian, so stay off.
Okay.
How is social distancing being done in on-campus housing and during on-campus move-in?
Great questions. So during on-campus move-in, we are limiting the amount of people moving into each building during a 2-hour time block. As international students, we are giving you priority to those time blocks based on the information you're sharing with OISS, who then will pass that along to us on your arrival dates and times for early arrivals. In our halls, we're doing a lot of different things. We're offering far more singles than we have in the past to our population, including our international students. We are also not filling every room in a particular hall or floor as well. So that will help have less people then using common bathrooms in areas like that. All of our common bathrooms will have kind of sanitizing, disinfecting stations installed in them with spray bottles and paper towels for you to be able to clean your spaces before and after use, particularly if you think like sinks and things like that. And we are doing some additional cleaning in our halls as well, making sure that our spaces are appropriately cleaned and ready for our students on a daily basis.
Thank you. And can families come with their student to help move them in?
So we can allow up to 2 guests per student to assist with move-in. Everyone does need to be healthy and not having a temperature or showing any symptoms on the day of arrival. And they will be required to wear masks during the move-in process. And for elevator use, we're having only one kind of family unit or one group of people using an elevator at a time.
And how will this work for those moving into quarantine first?
We are still working on the details of that, but when we get notice from the Center for Wellbeing and OISS about a student needing to move into quarantine housing, we will have very specific, a specific set of instructions for those students upon arrival to work with whoever the drop-off person will be to get access into that space.
Thank you. Madonna, will students receive COVID-19 tests upon arrival?
No, our current plan is not to test incoming students at the time of arrival. Part of that is that it's a point in time, and you may be negative today and positive tomorrow, so you really, it doesn't tell you enough information to be all that helpful. So it's really self-monitoring. So every individual will be given instructions and information about what you need to monitor. Most of you probably already know all the symptoms, and then who to report to if symptoms do arise, and then further instructions are given based on what your symptoms are. If you do have symptoms, we would want to test and keep you in quarantine and possibly move you into isolation, which is a different location for those that do test positive.
So what is the process if somebody becomes sick or is suspected to have been in contact with someone who is sick?
Okay, yeah, so there's kind of 2 different things. If somebody is sick, that is different. Then we are going to want to test, and they will be in quarantine until we get the results back. And if they are positive, then they are moved into isolation, and it's basically an enhanced quarantine. It's even more strict in terms of what you can and can't do. You'll be checked in with on a daily basis by our contact tracing team and our medical providers, and then additional instructions about, and the time frame is different. Those that are in isolation, it's 10 days from the onset of symptoms plus you have to have at least 72 hours without any fever or chills, and then all the other symptoms are getting better. So there are some difference in times and instructions, and those will be given to individuals as they meet those separate criteria of isolation versus quarantine. Isolation is for those that are ill, have tested positive. Quarantine is for those who perhaps have a suspected exposure. Hope that helps.
Thank you. Karen, maybe you can answer, what is happening with masks on campus? When should they be worn? Are students being provided masks, and how will they be enforced?
Thanks, Laurie, and it's good to see all of your faces. I'm going to respond to this, and then certainly Mitch and Madonna can jump in too. Yes, masks are being provided to all students. In fact, I see a student on the screen with a purple mask on, and that looks like it's one of our St. Thomas masks. Is it? Yes, he's shaking his head yes. So that is what it looks like. And when we hand those masks out, we will give you directions on how do you keep it clean and how do you care for your mask. And you are wearing it appropriately. It's over the nose and it's over the chin. So they will be expected in all places and buildings on campus when others are present. So if you live in the residence halls, you do not have to wear it in your room with your roommate, but if you have a guest, then you need to wear it. The expectation is that you wear it to class, that you wear it to lab, that you wear it to the dining services. You know, obviously you can take it off when you eat and drink, but the expectation is that you will be social distancing and be wearing masks. We will enforce that in the residence hall. Our residence life staff will be enforcing that. Outside of the residence halls, we as faculty and staff and we expect you to say something to your friends and to your classmates, and we as staff and faculty will do that too. If you forgot your mask, there's going to be places on campus that you can buy masks. There may be some disposable masks available also, but the expectation is going to be very clear. So if you come to class and you don't have a mask, your professor is going to say, you need to leave and go get a mask and then come back. So if it seems like you're doing this on a regular basis and you're willfully not wearing masks, you will go through the student conduct system at the university. We feel very strongly about this in terms of we want to stay open. We know you want to stay open. It's very important to you and all of us that we have the in-person experience on campus, and wearing masks is going to help us to continue with that. I know Madonna or Mitch, if you want to add anything.
I'll just add, so when you get to campus, you'll be able to pick up your mask in the campus card office, which is currently in the Anderson Student Center. On August 3rd, it will go back over to its home at Murray Herrick. So you can go in, you just have to have your ID with you. If you're a freshman and you're picking up your ID, you can get your ID and your mask at the exact same time. If you're on the Minneapolis campus, it will be in the campus store, which has the mailroom downstairs. So that's where you'll be able to pick up each of those. As Karen said, we will be very strict with masks in the dining halls because social distancing is such a difficult process within the dining halls. You will be asked to have your mask on until you actually sit down at your table and you are ready to eat. And before you get up, you need to put it back on while you go get something else. We will not allow anyone in any dining facility without a mask on. And it's very important that we do that. Again, the Minnesota Department of Health is requiring us to do that in order for us to reopen. So it's really important that we follow that guideline.
And I see that
there was a question about graduate students, and yes, masks are also included for graduate students.
Mm-hmm. And I see Madonna also mentioned to have a thermometer or bring one with you if you're not here yet. It's very important. And I just want to go back and talk a little bit about classes. I'm trying to manage, see chat questions here, but we have other people really focusing on that, but I just want to mention a couple things with regards to online courses. For those that are unable to come to the US due to travel bans or just other reasons, prior to the guidance or the new rule yesterday, we did hear from many of the deans that they will work with, that their faculty will work with international students abroad who are stuck and unable to come here. And that will include entirely online classes, even though your international student status in CVIS may not stay active. They can still work with you to ensure that there's either synchronous or asynchronous learning available to you. And so that's where we want to make sure you work with your academic department or academic advisor, that if you need to have a full online load from another country, that you can do that. And so we want you to continue progressing regardless of the immigration rule that came out yesterday. If you want to do that, that would be possible. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the tuition would remain the same for those courses, whether they're online from abroad or whether they're here. And whatever scholarship you have, if you're an undergraduate student or whatever discount you have, that would remain the same as well. Amanda, are there other questions that have come through?
Yep. So there are a lot of questions about what does it mean to be hybrid for specific situations. Is it one in-person class or is it only one online class? And if they are going to be abroad, are they going to be able to take full enrollment?
Yes, so I think I just answered the piece of if you're going to be abroad, you can enroll, your immigration status would be impacted.
I think they're concerned about having a full course load. They know they can go, but will they have the ability to take all their classes?
Yeah, until yesterday, we were planning on that for those that wouldn't be able to enroll, that professors and departments would accommodate international students who aren't able to arrive. And that's in the preparedness plan as well, I believe, that accommodations will be made for those international students that are unable to travel to the US to enroll in a full online course load to progress towards your degree. And what we're hearing right now from the latest immigration rule is that since we will be operating in a hybrid model at the University of St. Thomas, you will be able to take more than one class online, but you'll need at least one in-person class as of right now is what we're seeing. So if you're an undergrad student, it might be possible to have one in-person class and two online or two high-flex or co-flex or whatever the mode is. If you're a graduate student, it would likely be 1 and 1, so one online course. So we want to focus that at least one of your classes is in person. And the historic definition of what in person means, and again, we're still really figuring this out, but the historic definition of in person is 50%, more than 50% of the class should be in person. And that does not mean virtually in person or synchronous. That means physically in the classroom. So we will see if there's any more guidance on that, but right now that's what we're looking at.
Wonderful. There is another question, specifically if a student has to go home, are they eligible to apply for OPT?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
If a student is forced to go home because they don't want to transfer and they have to go home, how would that work about them applying for OPT if they're towards the end of their degree?
I'd say we don't know yet. I think we still need more information right now to see what that would mean and how students are able to remain active. I think that's the most important piece, is we want the international student status to be active. What the recent rule has said is that students cannot remain in the US if a school moves fully online, but it does not say that a student can't remain active. So that is what we need to look into.
And if we have a student who perhaps is starting their last year in their program and they choose to go home or have to go home, are they still eligible and completely fine to graduate from their program from home?
Yes, yes. They should be able to continue as long as they're working with their department and academic advisor to progress towards their degree and get a full online course load. There would be nothing stopping them from continuing and graduating and completing their degree from home. Only the immigration status would be impacted.
Additionally, in terms of, let's say they have one in-person class and other online courses, there's concerns about what does it mean for in-person if they're maybe not attending 100% of their courses for whatever reason, maybe they're sick or something. How closely will that be monitored for that in-person class?
We don't know yet. I would say it's still very new. We also have to look into options for those who are medically unable to pursue a full course of study in the US. And so what reduced course load options are available? We know there were options before if the person themselves are sick and unable to, and so we can look into seeing if that's an option depending on the situation.
And then we also have a question about grad program, software engineering. If someone wants to address what that looks like for their enrollment, being that all the classes are currently being shown as online.
Yes, Laurie or Crystal?
Well, that's a good question. We just had a meeting with our associate dean just before this, and he is speaking to the dean, and we will hopefully have some information very soon. I'm sorry I can't give you any more details because we really don't know at this point. But as soon as we know, we'll make sure we notify everyone.
Thanks. And I'll add, I spoke with the dean this morning, who is also extremely concerned about this new regulation, and it's top on his mind as far as trying to make sure that we can provide some in-person component, whatever that may be, for software and engineering, so that our international student status will not be in jeopardy. That is very important to him, and so know that that is what we are working on, even though they currently show up as online.
As a whole, in general, across different programs, students are asking about maybe they have only one course remaining, or they are new students perhaps. How do they know which courses will be online or in person? I know for new students, obviously they have a lot more support and registration, but maybe for current students too, how do they know which classes are being offered in which way?
Kathy, do you want to answer that on the undergraduate?
For current students, if you use ClassFinder, you can click on meeting times, or if you're in the registration module, meeting times will show you a description of whether that class is meeting online or in person, hybrid. Sometimes it'll say a percentage of 50% of this class is online. So it will detail the description of the course right there.
Excellent.
I would just add to that to say, wait a little before you look on ClassFinder, because some classes are still in the process of switching. And all current students would be issued new time tickets, hopefully around mid-July. So by that time, we are hoping classes would be set. If they say in person, they would be in person, or if they say online, they would be online. And regardless, we are recommending that you schedule a meeting with either Kathy or me just to make sure that you are in the appropriate classes.
I will echo on the grad side that ClassFinder is currently being updated. So what you see right now is not totally accurate. So we will kind of keep changing that as this conversation is happening and we're making adjustments. So if you have questions, again, please reach out to me or Tanisha and we can kind of talk you through your specific course. But right now it's not totally 100% accurate because we are literally updating it right now in Banner. So.
And I just want to jump in too. I spoke with the university registrar, and before we got the news about the recent ICE announcement, it was scheduled to be more accurate after Wednesday this week, but now with the new information that we've been provided, it's probably going to take a little bit longer than Wednesday this week. So for grad software and grad engineering, Laurie and myself will be emailing all current and new incoming students once we have everything solidified. So whatever you're seeing in ClassFinder might not be accurate for the next week or potentially 2 weeks.
Great. I see there's also questions on health insurance and having health insurance from overseas. And St. Thomas does automatically bill and require enrollment of international students into the St. Thomas Health Plan unless you are able to provide adequate coverage that's equivalent to St. Thomas's plan, and it is US-based coverage. Usually, and Madonna, you can correct me, but there will be a waive process that students can go through. And so Madonna, if you could talk just about the insurance piece and if COVID testing, how that works with insurance and if they have their own.
Okay, we really want all international students, regardless if they have other insurance, to take this insurance. It's far better than what any of us here can get. It's really very good. All of the care that's offered at the Center for Wellbeing is covered at 100%. That includes labs, immunization, it would include COVID testing, all those sorts of things. So it's a very strong insurance plan. There is what we call a copay, or some money that folks have to pay if you go to a clinic outside or you go to a hospital or an ER. So we talk more during orientation about that, but this is a very good insurance plan. Highly, highly recommend that you not waive out of it, even if you have the ability to do so.
Thank you. I saw a question just about what the rules will be about who they can sit with in the dining halls, and what about common spaces in the residence halls?
So I think from the dining perspective, we've removed about half the seats in all of the dining areas, and we'll have stickers on the tables and things like that of where people can sit. You're able to choose where you want to do that. Once we hit capacity, though, we will be a 1 in, 1 out. So once the dining facility is at capacity, we will have people wait outside the dining until one person leaves. Dining has a number of other changes that are happening. So we're changing our menu, self-service is going away. Some of our made-to-order stations are changing in order to accomplish that. And we will also be changing food for thought on the Minneapolis campus over to an all-you-care-to-eat dining facility, similar to the View, to allow more students to eat over on the Minneapolis campus starting in the fall.
And I responded to this in the chat as well, but common spaces in general, whether that's across campus or in our residence halls, will have social distancing guidelines and reduced capacities. So if it's not posted what the adjusted capacity is, the same ideas for social distancing still apply, with keeping yourself 6 feet from another person, so about 2 meters. I think Madonna clarified earlier as well.
Thanks, and I see more questions about online courses. I think what I encourage you most to do is to contact your academic department, your academic advisor. First, if you have a concern that maybe the 2 classes that you have left remaining are only available online, or they're only showing it's online, we can also work with your academic department and academic advisor to see if there's a way that one of those will be switched on person, or maybe if there are course substitutions that are available, and work with the departments and deans to see if any of that is possible. As of right now, we believe that 1 course in person is sufficient to maintain a current status. If you still don't like the new rule and guidance and want to take everything online, your immigration status will be put in jeopardy, and that would violate the immigration status. And so, of course, that is a choice that you have, but we don't recommend that, and especially at this time right now, and you, according to the rule, would face deportation proceedings potentially. So we would not advise that. Are there other questions? I know we just have a couple minutes left, and any questions that are not responded to, we're going to keep a copy of this chat log. We also have the recording for others, but we will be sure to respond individually, in addition to a larger email that we'll send to all students. Amanda's another question.
Maybe to end on a happier note, potentially, there are some questions coming through to me privately about what is it going to look like for some kind of traditions or programming in the next upcoming year to be socially distant and safe, but still give students a sense of community that they are looking for.
I love that question. Thank you. Maybe I know Margaret Cahill is on here from Campus Life. You want to start?
I'd love to. We are very actively planning lots of opportunities for students to engage. At this point right now, we're planning on around 85% of our programming will be virtual programming. So some of that is based on where we currently are with numbers and event policies and everything. But you know, and we are prepared to, if things lighten up a little bit and we're able to do more events with in-person, anything that we do will require social distancing and masks for in-person, but regardless of whether it's in person or virtual, we will have a robust program for the fall. And that includes welcome days programming, homecoming, lots of new types of programs. A lot of the organizations we work with on programming, when we bring in speakers or entertainment, have all done a phenomenal job of pivoting to great opportunities online. So we're super excited about just having a wide variety for folks to engage on. Thursday Night Live will continue, but will be streamed live music. So no matter where you are, you can log in and still hear that. We'll be hosting Tommy Tuesday Trivia every Tuesday night. So some new types of things that we're doing that students can get involved in. You can either log in once or you can log in every week and participate in. So we're very, very excited and encourage you to keep checking in on Tommy Link. We have started to put things in there. I think in the next month or so, you will see Tommy Link really start to ramp up. We will be hosting a virtual type activities fair, so students can still find clubs to engage in. We have put together a whole handbook on how to, for our student leaders in clubs and organizations, for how to host their clubs virtually this year to keep that engagement and connections over shared interests going. So again, lots of ways to stay engaged. We encourage you to get involved. It just might be involved online, but we still encourage you to get involved.
Thank you. And I just want to mention too, we do have walk-ins available every Monday, Wednesday. So timely, we have it tomorrow from 11 till 1. So that is for immigration questions, and it is 1 by 1. And so please don't hesitate to pop in tomorrow and also email us any questions. We can set up Zoom meetings all day long to meet with you guys one-on-one to make sure that you have all the information you need. Again, this is very new. This is less than 24 hours old, and so we're still waiting for more details and guidance. But we do hope to see you all in the fall or spring or whatever we can make work, whether in person or virtually. And so I just want to thank everybody for attending today. And most likely we might plan another one in August that is more towards the fall semester to answer more questions as we know more. And for anyone with I-20 questions, let us know. We will mail all new I-20s to you wherever you are, and it will be the same CVIS number, and that shouldn't change. And so if you have any questions, new students, please feel free to work with Amanda and Ethan. I'm sure they've been working with you every day already, but keep sending those emails away, and current students as well. We're here to help you. So thank you, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Thank you, Laurie. The recording will be available at a later time on our website, as well as for the current and new students. We will send any or more updates through emails. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.